The afternoon sun was warm and the sky was painted in soft shades of blue and gold. The gentle hum of the town's streets filled the air, mixed with occasional bird songs. Two famous figures, The Rock and John Cena, were traveling through a small coastal town on their way to a local charity event. Neither of them expected that this ordinary day would turn into something extraordinary. Traffic was heavier than usual, thanks to a minor storm that had swept through the area earlier. Fallen leaves and branches were scattered across the roads, and the occasional puddle reflected the sunlight like tiny mirrors. Drivers slowed down, cautious of the wet surfaces, and the two men were no exception. As they waited for the road to clear, they noticed a faint glimmer from a distance. At first, they thought it was just sunlight reflecting off a shiny surface, but then they realized it wasn't moving like a normal reflection. It blinked, paused, and blinked again in a pattern. The Rock leaned forward slightly, his brow furrowed. "Do you see that?" he asked Cena. Cena squinted, following the light. "Yeah, that's strange. It's too steady to be random. Could be someone signaling for help." Curiosity mixed with concern, and they made a quick decision to investigate. They parked their car safely on the side of the road and grabbed their jackets. The ground was muddy, and the smell of wet earth and fallen leaves filled their noses. Every step they took left prints behind, but they didn't care. Someone might be in trouble, and they couldn't just wait. As they walked, the signal continued, a small but persistent flicker. It led them through a narrow path that twisted between dense trees. The air was cooler here, shaded by thick branches, and the sound of rustling leaves mingled with distant birdsong. Every so often, they thought they heard faint calls for help, but it could have been the wind. Still, they pushed on, guided by the light that seemed to beckon them forward. After a few minutes of careful walking, the path opened into a small clearing. There, near a broken wooden bridge that led over a rushing stream, they saw her, a young black girl, perhaps 12 or 13, was sitting on a large rock, her leg awkwardly bent. She held a small mirror in her hand, trembling slightly as she tried to reflect sunlight toward the road. Her clothes were damp from the earlier rain, and her hair stuck to her forehead. It was clear she had been stranded for a while. The Rock immediately stepped forward, keeping his tone calm. "Hey there, are you okay? Can you stand up?" His voice was gentle but firm, carrying a sense of reassurance. The girl's eyes widened in recognition and relief. She tried to speak, but only managed a small, shaky nod. John Cena moved closer, scanning the area to make sure there were no other dangers. "It's all right. We're here to help," he said softly. His presence was calming, a steadying influence that seemed to make the girl feel slightly safer. The Rock knelt down, keeping his distance just enough to not overwhelm her. "You've done a good job signaling for help. Can you tell us how this happened?" She took a deep breath, her voice barely audible. I was hiking with my mom, and I slipped near the bridge. iPhone, it doesn't have service. I tried to call, but it didn't work." Cena nodded, understanding immediately. The situation was precarious, but they stayed composed. "All right, we'll get you out of here safely," he said. He gestured to the Rock, who was already thinking about how to stabilize the area. The water beneath the broken bridge rushed by, clear but swift, reflecting the late afternoon sun like molten silver. Both men assessed the surroundings carefully. The bridge itself was unstable, and the rocks around it were slick with water and moss. The girl's leg looked like it might have a sprain, so they had to be extremely careful. The Rock spotted a long, sturdy branch lying a few feet away. He picked it up, testing its weight and strength. Cena found his jacket and belt, improvising a makeshift rope system that could help support her weight if necessary. Together, they began forming a plan. The Rock would guide her step by step, while Cena would secure the rope to prevent any slips. Communication was key. One wrong move could be dangerous. The girl watched them with wide, trusting eyes, clearly relieved but still anxious. "I didn't think anyone would find me," she whispered. The Rock smiled gently. "You did everything right by signaling for help. That's why we're here. You're safe now." Slowly and carefully they began moving. The Rock extended the branch like a bridge, allowing her to place one foot on it at a time. Cena held the rope tightly, ready to pull her if she lost balance. Her first steps were hesitant, but the Rock's calm voice and Cena's steady hands gave her courage. Each step across the makeshift bridge felt like a small victory. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves above, but they didn't rush. Every movement was deliberate. The girl finally reached the opposite side, and they guided her to a flat area, away from the rushing water. Relief washed over all three of them. Her leg was still sore, but she was safe. The Rock knelt beside her, helping her sit down comfortably on a large rock. Cena checked around to ensure there were no more hazards. "You did amazing. That's some brave thinking, sending the signal like that," he said. The girl smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and lingering fear in her expression. As they waited for help, they kept talking to her to calm her nerves. The Rock asked about her favorite subjects in school, and Cena joked lightly about how tricky hiking trails could be. The conversation was simple but effective, keeping her distracted from the discomfort and fear. Minutes felt longer than they were, but soon, they regained a phone signal. The Rock quickly called the local authorities, explaining the situation clearly and concisely. An ambulance and a rescue team were on their way. Meanwhile, the girl's mother arrived, tears in her eyes, calling her daughter's name. The reunion was emotional. The girl ran into her mother's arms, sobbing, and both men stepped back, giving them privacy. The mother thanked them repeatedly, her gratitude almost overwhelming. The Rock and Cena just nodded, smiling quietly. For them, the important part was that she was safe. After ensuring the girl was properly cared for, both men stayed nearby until the ambulance and authorities took over. They didn't seek recognition or cameras. Their satisfaction came from knowing they had helped someone in need. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the town. It had been an ordinary afternoon turned extraordinary by quick thinking, courage, and a willingness to act. As they walked back to their car, Cena spoke first. "You know, this is what it's all about. Not the fame, not the spotlight, just helping someone when they need it most." The Rock nodded, looking back at the bridge and the girl, now safely with her mother. "Exactly. Today we didn't just help someone cross a bridge. We reminded them they're not alone. And that matters more than anything else." They got into the car, both thoughtful but quietly proud. The town, still bathed in golden light, seemed peaceful again. What started as a routine trip to a charity event had turned into an unforgettable experience. A true reminder that heroism doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes it just needs action, presence, and heart. The signal, once faint and uncertain, had brought them to someone who needed help, and in doing so, it had given them a story they would carry in their hearts forever. No cameras, no headlines, just a real-life moment of courage, empathy, and human connection that neither they nor the girl would ever forget. After the girl was safely reunited with her mother, The Rock and John Cena walked back to their car. The streets were quieter now, with only the soft rustle of leaves in the trees and the distant sound of the stream nearby. Both men were thoughtful, reflecting on how quickly a normal day had turned into a test of courage and presence of mind. They knew that moments like these didn't come often, and they carried a sense of humility and responsibility that came from knowing they had helped someone in genuine need. They got into the car, the engine humming as they drove slowly toward the town center. Neither spoke much at first, each lost in their own thoughts. The Rock finally broke the silence. "You know, it's funny. You prepare for a lot in life, but you never really know when something like this is going to happen. You just have to be ready to act." Cena nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. "Yeah, and it's not about being famous or strong. It's about seeing someone in trouble and doing something about it. That's the real test." As they drove, they noticed a small cafe still open despite the late hour. The sign flickered in the dim light, welcoming tired travelers. They decided to stop for a quick drink and to gather their thoughts. Inside, the aroma of coffee and baked bread filled the air. A few locals glanced at them, recognizing the famous wrestlers, but most were busy with their own conversations. The Rock and Cena chose a quiet corner, sitting with cups of hot coffee. They talked about the girl and her bravery.
"Can you imagine being that young and trying to send an SOS all alone?"
The Rock said, shaking his head slightly. "She must have been terrified, but she didn't give up." "That's impressive," Cena smiled, stirring his coffee. "Yeah, and we just happened to be there at the right time. Sometimes that's all it takes. Someone noticing, someone acting. It's a reminder that small actions can mean a lot." The cafe owner, curious about the sudden visitors, approached politely. "I couldn't help but notice you two outside earlier. Did something happen?" The Rock and Cena exchanged a glance, then The Rock spoke with a calm smile. "Just helping someone who needed it. Nothing special." The owner nodded, impressed nonetheless. "Well, it's good to see people stepping up. Not everyone does that these days." After finishing their drinks, they left the cafe and continued their journey to the charity event. The streets were now painted in shades of twilight, with streetlights flickering on and casting long shadows. They reflected quietly, realizing how fragile life could be. One moment everything seemed normal, and the next someone's life could be in danger. They both understood that heroism wasn't about the size of the person or the fame they carried, but about the willingness to act without hesitation. As they reached the event, the atmosphere shifted. Volunteers and organizers welcomed them warmly, unaware of what had just happened. Cameras, lights, and the hum of excited chatter filled the hall. Despite the distraction of the event, both men carried the memory of the afternoon with them, quietly proud of their actions. The girl and her family were safe, and that was enough. During the event, they interacted with children and families, signing autographs and taking photos. But in their minds, the image of the girl on the broken bridge lingered. Cena leaned toward the rock during a brief pause. It makes you think, doesn't it? All the times we worry about small stuff, but out there, real courage is happening all the time. The rock nodded. Exactly. And it's a reminder that we can't take our ability to help for granted. We have to pay attention, be present, and step in when it matters. Later, when they were alone for a moment, Cena pulled out his phone. He started writing a short message to the girl and her mother, just to let them know he and the rock were glad she was safe. It was a simple note, but it meant a lot. The rock added his own words, emphasizing that her quick thinking and courage had saved her from a dangerous situation. They both understood that acts of bravery deserved recognition, even if it wasn't for the cameras or media. As the evening progressed, the charity event itself was a success. They helped raise funds, shared laughs with children, and even joined a small basketball game with some of the attendees. Despite the fame and excitement, their minds often drifted back to the girl. Every time someone mentioned courage or helping others, both men felt a silent connection to what had happened that afternoon. After the event, they left the hall and walked toward their car, the night air cool and crisp. The town was quiet now, only the distant sound of waves reaching the shore. The rock looked up at the stars, reflecting on the day. You know, Cena, it's days like this that remind you why you do what you do. Not the fame, not the matches, not the spotlight. It's moments like these. Moments where someone trusts you and you don't let them down. Cena nodded, his expression thoughtful, and it shows that anyone can be a hero. You don't need superpowers, you don't need a script, just a willing heart and the courage to act. That girl reminded us of that. The car ride back was silent but comfortable. Both men were tired, physically and emotionally, yet there was a sense of fulfillment in their hearts. They knew they had made a difference, and sometimes that was more important than anything else. The girl's bravery had sparked something in them as well. A reminder that courage could be found in the most unexpected places, and that the right action at the right moment could change everything. As they drove out of the town and toward the next destination, neither spoke for a while. The hum of the engine, the quiet night, and the memory of the girl sending her SOS in the distance filled the car with a reflective calm. Both understood that this was a story they would carry with them forever. A story not about fame or glory, but about real courage, empathy, and human connection. And though the world might never know the full story of what had happened that afternoon on the broken bridge, for The Rock, John Cena, and the girl, it would remain an unforgettable chapter in their lives, a testament to the power of noticing, acting, and believing in the strength of human spirit. The morning after the charity event, The Rock and John Cena decided to take a short walk along the coast before heading to their next engagement. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of the ocean and the faint hum of waves hitting the shore. The events of the previous day were still fresh in their minds, and neither of them had fully processed the experience with the young girl who had signaled for help. It had been a mixture of fear, responsibility, and relief, and both felt a lingering sense of gratitude for having been able to act in time. As they walked, the streets of the small town were coming to life. Shopkeepers were opening their doors, children ran along the sidewalks, and the occasional dog barked at passers-by. Everything seemed ordinary and calm, yet both men knew that just hours ago a life had been at risk, and they had been the ones to intervene. The Rock, looking out at the horizon where the sun reflected off the water, spoke first. You know, Cena, situations like yesterday make you realize how unpredictable life can be. One moment everything is normal and the next, someone is in danger and needs help. Cena nodded thoughtfully, his gaze following a flock of seagulls soaring over the water. Exactly. And it's not about being ready for the danger itself, but about being ready to respond, to act when it counts. That girl didn't wait for someone else to notice her. She made the effort herself, and that made all the difference. Their walk took them to a small park near the coastline. A few children played on swings, and older people were sitting on benches, enjoying the morning sun. Both men paused at a small wooden bench, taking a seat and reflecting on the previous day's events. The Rock turned to Cena and said, "I keep thinking about her courage. A kid, alone, hurt, and still thinking to signal for help. It's remarkable." Cena smiled, a quiet admiration in his eyes. "Yeah, and she reminds us that courage isn't about size, strength, or experience. It's about heart. And she had plenty of that." The conversation led them to discuss their own experiences with sudden responsibilities and unexpected emergencies. They shared stories from their own lives, times when they had to step up and help someone without warning. The bond of understanding between them was strengthened by the shared experience with the young girl. Both recognized that heroism often comes quietly, without applause or recognition. As they walked back toward their car, they noticed a small group of people gathered near the edge of the town talking animatedly. Curious, they approached and realized that the local news had arrived, not about the charity event, but about the incident on the broken bridge. A few bystanders had shared the story online, and it was slowly gaining attention. The Rock and Cena stayed back, observing from a distance. They didn't want to step into the spotlight unnecessarily, but they were aware that their presence had inspired many people. The crowd's excitement was respectful, and they made sure the girl and her mother remained protected and unseen by cameras. Both men felt the power of a simple act of kindness and how it could ripple outward, touching lives beyond what they could immediately see. Later that morning, they visited a local hospital where the girl had been taken for a checkup. The mother greeted them warmly, still emotional but visibly calmer. The girl, now wrapped in a warm blanket, smiled as she recognized them. She was slightly embarrassed but proud at the same time. "I wanted to thank you both again," she said softly. Her voice carried both sincerity and awe. "I was really scared, but knowing you were there made me feel safe." The Rock crouched to her level, his voice gentle. "You did everything right. You stayed calm, you signaled for help, and you trusted yourself. That's what saved you," Cena added. "And remember, courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing even when you are. You showed real bravery." The girl's mother joined the conversation, holding her daughter's hand tightly. "I don't know how to thank you enough. You saved her. You were there when she needed help the most. We are forever grateful." The Rock and Cena both shook their heads, humbly deflecting praise. "No thanks needed," Cena said. "We were just in the right place at the right time. That's all." The Rock nodded in agreement, though inside they both felt a quiet pride, not for recognition, but for the knowledge that they had made a meaningful difference. After leaving the hospital, they returned to their car, ready to continue their day. The streets were busier now, and the town felt alive in a new way. Their minds wandered back to the incident repeatedly, analyzing every decision, every step, and every choice they had made. They discussed how small, thoughtful actions could change outcomes, emphasizing the importance of presence and mindfulness in moments of crisis. Driving along the coastal road, the Rock reflected, "You know, Cena, the way she used that mirror to signal for help, it shows so much initiative. Kids are often underestimated. This shows that sometimes the ones who appear vulnerable are also the strongest." Cena smiled. "She taught us more than we taught her. Bravery isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet and clever, and she had both." The rest of the day was filled with meetings, interviews, and appearances related to their ongoing projects. Yet despite the busy schedule, their thoughts often returned to the young girl. Both men realized that real-life heroism wasn't something you could plan for. It wasn't scripted or rehearsed. It happened spontaneously, and it required both courage and quick thinking. They discussed how this experience would stay with them forever, influencing how they approached both their personal and professional lives. By the evening, as they returned to their hotel, they found themselves reflecting quietly on the lessons learned. The Rock, looking out at the city lights, said, "I think what struck me the most was how much responsibility we all carry in these small moments. We can't always predict what will happen, but we can choose how we respond. That's the essence of heroism. Cena nodded in agreement. And it doesn't take superpowers. It takes attention, empathy, and action. That girl reminded us that courage can be found in anyone at any age, and that it can inspire everyone around them. As they settled into their rooms that night, both men felt a deep sense of gratitude. They were grateful for their own abilities, yes, but more importantly, they were grateful for the opportunity to be present in a critical moment of someone else's life. The experience was humbling. A reminder that no matter how much fame or success one might have, the most meaningful actions are often those that quietly impact the lives of others. The story of the girl on the broken bridge would stay with them forever, not as a tale of celebrity intervention, but as a reminder that courage, empathy, and timely action could change the course of a life in ways nothing else could. And in their hearts, both men knew that what they had witnessed and participated in was a moment of pure human connection, a moment that would inspire them and countless others for years to come. The next morning, the town seemed to have returned to its usual rhythm. Birds sang from tree branches, small vendors set up their stalls, and the salty breeze carried a sense of calm over the streets. The events of the previous day, however, lingered in the minds of The Rock and John Cena. Even as they prepared for another day of charity work and public appearances, their thoughts frequently drifted back to the young girl who had signaled for help. Her courage and quick thinking had left a deep impression on them both. After breakfast, they decided to revisit the area near the broken bridge. Their intent was not for recognition or media attention, but to understand the environment and reflect on how the rescue had unfolded. As they walked, the familiar path felt different. Every rock, every tree, and every puddle seemed more significant now, marking the place where a young girl had faced fear and uncertainty and still acted bravely. When they reached the clearing near the bridge, the memories came rushing back. The Rock carefully examined the area, noting the angles of the broken planks and the water's strong current. Cena scanned the surrounding terrain, thinking about how the situation could have turned out differently if not for the girls' SOS and their quick intervention. The place held a quiet reverence, as though the town itself acknowledged the courage displayed there. Both men sat on a nearby log, taking a moment to absorb the significance of what had occurred. The Rock spoke first, his voice soft but thoughtful. "You know, Cena, this wasn't just about us helping her. It was about her taking action first. She didn't wait for someone else to notice her. She made the effort herself." "That's remarkable for someone so young." Cena nodded. "Exactly. And that's what makes the whole thing so inspiring. Courage isn't always about the people who act. Sometimes it's about those who make the first move, even when they're scared." She showed us that. They continued walking along the stream that ran beneath the broken bridge. The water rushed past them, clear but forceful, reminding them of the danger the girl had faced. As they traced the path they had taken during the rescue, both men reflected on the decisions they had made in those critical moments. Every choice mattered. Every step had consequences, and yet, despite the danger, they had acted with calm and precision. The Rock paused, looking down at a smooth rock near the water's edge. "It's strange, isn't it? One small moment, one quick decision, and a life can be completely changed. It makes you appreciate the weight of every action we take, even the ones that seem minor." Cena agreed. "And it's a reminder that we're all connected. We might not always see it, but the choices we make affect others, sometimes in ways we can't predict. That girl's life was at risk, and we happened to be in the right place at the right time to help. But it started with her decision to signal for help. That's powerful." As they walked further, they noticed local children playing nearby, unaware of the events that had occurred. The sight reminded them of the importance of teaching resilience and awareness from a young age. The Rock bent down, picking up a small stick and showing it to Cena. "It's funny how simple tools can become life-saving. That little mirror she used, something most people would overlook, was her way of saying, 'I need help.' It's a lesson in paying attention to small details." Cena smiled. "And it's also a lesson in hope. Even in a scary situation, she believed someone would notice her. That faith combined with action made all the difference." Later, they decided to visit the girl and her mother at their home, ensuring they were doing well and offering support if needed. The mother greeted them warmly, her gratitude still evident in her eyes. The girl, now rested and more confident, ran to meet them with a shy smile. "I wanted to thank you both again," she said softly. "I know I wouldn't have made it without you. The Rock crouched to meet her gaze. No, you did the right thing. You stayed calm, signaled for help, and trusted yourself. That's what saved you. You were brave, and we're proud of you. Cena added, and remember, courage isn't about never being scared. It's about acting when you're scared. You did that. That's real bravery. The mother, holding her daughter's hand, expressed her heartfelt gratitude once more. I will never forget what you both did. You saved her life, and we are forever grateful. Both men humbly acknowledged the thanks, knowing that the real hero was the girl herself. They spent some time talking, sharing simple stories and laughter, creating a bond that went beyond the rescue. It wasn't just about saving a life. It was about connecting, understanding, and showing that support and kindness could make a lasting impact. As they left the home, the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town. The Rock and Cena walked quietly, each lost in thought. It's moments like these, The Rock said, that remind us why we do what we do. Not for recognition or applause, but to be present when it matters most. Cena nodded. And to remember that heroism isn't about fame. It's about action, empathy, and courage. That girl showed us all that, and it's something we should carry with us every day. They paused at the edge of town, looking back toward the bridge and the clearing where the rescue had occurred. The memory was vivid, yet it also brought a sense of peace. The danger had passed, the girl was safe, and they had been able to act decisively when it counted. Driving back to their hotel, they reflected on how the story of that afternoon might inspire others. Not for headlines or media attention, but as a quiet lesson in human connection, courage, and the importance of noticing those in need. They understood that sometimes the most meaningful impact comes from small actions and being willing to step forward when no one else does. The rest of the evening was spent quietly, reviewing plans for their next events and taking moments to reflect on the lessons learned. They knew that while they would continue with their public lives, the memory of the girl and the broken bridge would remain with them. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about the quiet knowledge that they had been there for someone who needed them, and that they had done the right thing. As night fell, The Rock and Cena looked out from the hotel balcony at the calm sea, the town lights twinkling below. They both knew that the day's events were a reminder of the fragile balance between fear and courage, despair and hope. And in that delicate balance, action, empathy, and presence could change everything. The story of the girl and her SOS, the broken bridge, and the swift response would remain a powerful lesson for both men. It was a story of bravery, connection, and human compassion. A story that would stay with them forever, quietly shaping how they viewed courage, responsibility, and the importance of helping others in moments of need. The following day, the town seemed quieter than usual, almost as if it were reflecting on the events of the past days. The Rock and John Cena decided to take a walk along the coastline before heading to another engagement. The salty breeze brushed against their faces, and the soft sound of waves hitting the shore created a peaceful atmosphere. Yet both men carried the weight and the memory of what had happened, the young girl, the broken bridge, and the act of courage that had brought them all together. As they strolled, they spoke quietly, sharing their thoughts on bravery, empathy, and human connection. The Rock said, "It's remarkable how one small signal, just a blink of light, can change everything. That girl didn't wait for someone else to notice her. She acted, and that made all the difference." Cena nodded, his gaze following a group of children playing near the beach. It's a reminder that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's clever, and sometimes it's just persistent. That girl had all of that, and she inspired all of us in the process. They continued walking to the local park, where families were starting to gather for a weekend market. Vendors were arranging their stalls, and the scent of fresh bread and fruits filled the air. The town had resumed its normal rhythm, but for the two men, the recent events had left an indelible mark. They were reminded that moments of true heroism often happened in ordinary places, with ordinary people doing extraordinary things. A few local children recognized them and approached shyly. The Rock and Cena smiled and greeted them warmly, sharing jokes and listening to their stories. It was a small interaction, but it reminded both men of the importance of presence and attention in every moment. They saw that encouragement and kindness could make a lasting impression, even in casual encounters. As they continued, they reached a quiet area overlooking the broken bridge. The scene was calm now, but the memory of the rushing water and the perilous path came vividly to mind. The Rock knelt beside a large rock, picking up a small leaf that had floated down from the trees. You know, Cena, it's strange how fragile life can feel in moments like that. One slip, one wrong step, and things could have turned out very differently. It makes you realize how important it is to act when it matters most. Cena looked out at the water, reflecting on the rescue. And it's not just about being strong or famous. It's about seeing someone in need and stepping up even when it's scary or uncertain. That girl taught us that courage isn't always obvious, but it's always there if you choose to act. Later, they visited the girl and her mother again at their home. She had recovered well, her injury now just a memory. The mother greeted them warmly, and the girl ran to meet them with a bright smile. There was a sense of comfort and safety now, the fear from the previous days replaced by confidence and gratitude. "I wanted to thank you both again," the girl said softly, her voice carrying pride and sincerity. "I know I wouldn't have made it without you." The Rock crouched to meet her eyes, his voice gentle. "You were brave. You stayed calm, thought of a way to get help, and acted. That's what saved you. You're the hero here," Cena added. "And remember, bravery isn't about never being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are. You showed that, and it's something to be proud of." The mother, holding her daughter's hand tightly, spoke with emotion. "I will never forget what you both did. You were there when it mattered most. Thank you for being her support and strength." The Rock and Cena humbly accepted the thanks, understanding that their presence had been crucial, but the girl's courage had been the driving force. They spent some time talking and laughing, sharing simple stories and forming a bond that extended beyond the rescue. It was a quiet human connection that reminded them both of the true meaning of empathy and care. As they left, the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the town. The streets were calm and the waves shimmered in the fading light. The Rock turned to Cena and said, "Moments like these remind me why we do what we do. Not for applause or recognition, but to be present and act when it matters most." Cena nodded in agreement. "And to remember that heroism isn't about fame. It's about action, compassion, and courage. That girl showed us that, and it's something we should carry with us always." Driving back to their hotel, they reflected on how the story of that day could inspire others. Not through headlines or media coverage, but as a quiet lesson in human connection, bravery, and the importance of noticing those in need. They realized that sometimes the smallest gestures and the simplest actions could have the greatest impact. That night, as they prepared to rest, both men thought about the lessons learned. They understood that courage came in many forms and could be found in unexpected places. It wasn't just about physical strength or fame. It was about noticing, acting, and believing in the human spirit. The girl's bravery had reminded them of this truth in a powerful and unforgettable way. The next morning, they reflected once more before departing the town. Walking along the quiet streets, they saw the life and activity of the town returning to normal. Children played, vendors sold their goods, and families went about their routines. Yet for the Rock and Cena, the memory of the rescue lingered as a reminder that every day brought opportunities to act with empathy and courage. They knew that the story of the girl, the broken bridge, and the quick response would stay with them forever. It wasn't a story for fame or recognition, but a story of real heroism, connection, and human spirit. It was a reminder that courage could be quiet, resilience could be clever, and the right action at the right time could change everything. As they left the town and drove toward their next destination, the sun rising behind them, both men felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. They knew that the young girl's courage had inspired them as much as they had helped her. In that simple act of signaling for help, a ripple of bravery and compassion had been set in motion, touching lives in ways that might never be fully seen. For The Rock, John Cena, and the young girl, the experience became more than a moment of rescue. It became a story of courage, empathy, and connection, a story that would live in their hearts and minds forever. It was proof that real heroes don't always seek the spotlight. Sometimes they simply act when someone needs them most, and in doing so, they leave a lasting impact, quietly shaping the world with their presence, bravery, and humanity.